It's an incredible time to be a Crystal Palace fan, and unbeaten runners are surging up the Premier League table, and with over £30 million still left in the bank and the January transfer window round the corner, I think we've got room for one more signing to take us to the next level. Now, since the move away from this 4-2-2-2 formation across to this 5-3-2, restoring Joachim Andersen into the heart of my defence, while still maintaining the dangerous attacking double act of Dominic Solanke and Terry Moffi up front, as well as moving Diachi Kamada into his rightful central attacking midfield position in between those two, Crystal Palace are on an absolute tear, catapulting ourselves up the Premier League table into the final Europa League spot, and now we are just 5 points behind Arsenal in the final Champions League spot. Now, to be fair, whilst I do think it will be quite a tough ask for these Crystal Palace players to qualify for the Champions League, and with the board only expecting us to qualify for the Europa League this season, I would still be incredibly proud of these players if we were able to achieve that outcome as we look to try and take the next step in our quest to make ourselves one of Europe's elite. However, whilst this team really does look like it's moving in the right direction, I still do feel like we've got a couple of gaps that we need to plug. Now, starting off in defence, I mentioned the return of Joachim Andersen has provided some much needed steel and experience to my backline, and it has allowed the likes of Mark Gay and the youngster William Pacho to thrive alongside him. However, with those three now playing in a 3 central defensive partnership, it means that I've only got Chris Richard, the 24-year-old American, as a backup. At 77 rated, he's not too bad off the bench, but it doesn't really leave me with much else in reserve. Now, Dominic Solanke and Terry Moffi seem to be forming quite the partnership up front, with both of them now being top of the goal-scoring charts for me this season. However, I do have to give a quick shout-out to this man, Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's only appeared 9 times so far this season, but he's already scored 5 goals. And to be fair to the 27-year-old Frenchman, he seems like an able deputy for those two. However, with me only realistically having 3 senior attackers playing in a 2-man striking partnership up front, if anything was to happen to 1 or even 2 of these players, I could be in some serious trouble heading into the second half of the season. However, for me though, looking at this formation, there is one surprising key area of concern, and that is, despite Diachi Kamada being one of my highest rated players at 82, unfortunately the likes of Eze and Olise and Fabio Vieira aren't exactly providing him with much stiff competition. Having said that though, he is really starting to settle in here at Crystal Palace, with 5 goals and 4 assists in 18 appearances in all competitions. He's really starting to build on what was a very slow start. Speaking of slow though, with Olise really not being able to live up to the hype that he managed to at the beginning of Season 1, and with Fabio Vieira continuing his poor form, really unable to recapture that fine purple patch that he had at the back of Season 1, I kind of feel like I've got a very big decision to make as to what I'm going to do in this central attacking midfield spot. Now, I've spoken time after time after time that I do really have a lot of faith in Olise. He's got great versatility and he's only 22 years of age, plus he has that something special, and I really think he could be a key component in the future of this Crystal Palace team. So for me now, because he hasn't really been able to feature too much for me this season, I'm going to stick him on the loan list and hope that a club comes in for him and offers him first team football in the second half of the season. Speaking of a loan move though, Matthias Frank, having headed out on loan to Atletico Bilbao at the beginning of this season, he's already gone up to a 74. It looks like he's playing some really good football, and I want to keep it that way, so I'm actually going to keep him out on loan, not return him to the club right now. And so that leaves me with a very big conundrum. Obviously, Diachi Kamada has cemented himself as my number 1 choice, but I need someone who's going to properly keep him on his toes and properly compete with him. And to be honest, I'm just not quite sure that Fabio Vieira is the answer. He's really struggled apart from said purple patch that I mentioned earlier on at the back end of Season 1, and he really hasn't hit the heights that I was hoping for since his move from Arsenal at the very beginning of this career mode. And so I am making a very bold decision, and that is that I'm going to decide to cut the Fabio Vieira experiment short, stick him on the transfer list, and whilst he claims he's a little bit surprised by me wanting to move him on, he says he's not actually that unhappy about it. And with Jurgen Klopp just happening to find himself walking around the streets of South London, he decided to pop into my office and try and offer me a £51 million deal for the 24-year-old Portuguese. And of course, at such a huge fee, it is one that I cannot turn down. And of course, Fabio Vieira was all too keen to jump at the move to the English Giants as he departs Crystal Palace Football Club for £51 million. And also with a loan offer coming in for the remainder of the season for the youngster Eze and Olise. He's the second central attacking midfielder to depart to Newcastle United. And with those 2 departures, it leaves me, of course, with absolutely no choice but to invest in a serious central attacking midfielder when the January transfer window opens. And of course, to dive into this ever-growing selection of players that all of you have suggested for me to sign. And once the budget gets topped up at the beginning of January, it's going to be time to get down to work. Back to the football we go though, and after beating Blackburn Rovers 3-1 in our very first game of this episode, following that up with a 3-2 away victory courtesy of a hat-trick from Kamada, and a 1-1 draw at home against Everton, followed up by a huge 3-0 away win against Newcastle United. Despite an unlikely 3-2 loss in the Europa Conference League, we just about managed to squeeze through top of our group to keep the momentum going. And speaking of momentum, with us still being in 5th place in the Premier League, now clawing the gap to Spurs in 4th spot, down to just 3 points. It is time to welcome a relegation-threatened Leeds United to Selhurst Park in our very first played game of this episode. Dominic Solanke looks like he is in fine form so far this campaign, and I'm hoping that can continue here today. It's a huge game at home, in front of the fans, under the lights here, and it's a game we must be expected to take 3 points from. So it's Tyreek Mitchell now on the left-hand side to get us kicked off here, but he runs into a little bit of trouble early doors there. Bit of an early start, bit of a slippy one as Greenwood now plays it across to Alex Vale on the left-hand side. Tucks back in really nicely. Nice little ball into Perrault. Greenwood gets it back right on the edge of the box. Mark Gay comes across though, and it looks like the young man may have strayed offside. No, instead Leeds United get a free kick in a very dangerous position. It is of course going to be the man Greenwood who's going to step up to take it, but Perrault looks for the short option instead, finds Aronson, lines it up from distance, forces Henderson into a save. Well, it's not been a great start so far here for Crystal Palace under the lights in the opening 10 minutes as Harrison hit to Greenwood. Oh my word, just tried to slip that along the ground past Henderson, but once again the Englishman was equal to it. It's Mark Gay now to fire a wicked ball right the way over to the right hand side to Daniel Munoz to really open up the play here. He goes straight inside though to Adam Wharton, and Decore now will look to go across to the left hand side. He does play a ball nicely over to Tyreek Mitchell, who's going to try and see if he can burst into the centre here. Blaze the ball down the flank into Dominic Solanke, who just couldn't get there ahead of the defender. Adam Wharton will win the ball back though in the centre of the park. Really nicely done from the young man. Plays it into Kamada. Kamada, full of confidence, turns around, tries to see if he can find some sort of angle, to find some sort of player here. Finds Munoz in the end, who's managed to keep himself onside, throws it in. But where was Dominic Solanke when you need him? It's Decore now for Crystal Palace. Lovely little run into Adam Wharton, and Adam Wharton's got an option of Daniel Munoz down this right-hand side. Munoz to fire a ball in, looking for the head of Terry Moffey. Couldn't quite find him, but we're building here at Selhurst Park. Anderson floats this over to Tyreek Mitchell. Surely now it just feels like a matter of time before we manage to knock this Leeds door down. It's thrown over to the back post here. Lovely little turn down from Dominic Solanke and Adam Wharton. It's off for a corner, and of course it is going to be the Englishman who's going to be the man to take it. It's going to be an in-swinger with his left foot. Floats it in, looking for the man of the moment, Dominic Solanke, who just drags his header wide. Shackleton being almost shackled down there by Terry Moffey, but he just managed to wriggle away from it, and now Leeds build out from the back. Really nicely done, and Shackleton now down the right-hand side, gets it back from Kamara. Lovely one-touch play here, and now the right-back is storming forward into my penalty area, plays it right across. That was a really poor ball, and a really great chance there for Leeds United, but Greenwood keeps it alive, goes past Daniel Munoz, floats it back into the back post. Tyreek Mitchell heads it clear, only out as far as Aronson, takes on the volley, and what a volley it was, on the edge of the box, curled it round the goalkeeper. That is absolutely fabulous, right on the stroke of half-time. Well, Dean Henderson is really disappointed, and rightly so. He's been really good so far, but he could do absolutely nothing about that one. We've peppered the Leeds United goal, but not able to take advantage. Aronson had the time just to chest it down, and on the volley, that is sublime. Lovely finish from the young man. Leeds United lead 1-0. Well, that is not the end to the half that I would have wanted, and there has been some stern words by myself in the dressing room at the half-time, as I've really got to try and see if I can shape these players into life here. Shackleton now into Harrison. Aronson now for Leeds United, full of beans and confidence after that early goal into Perrault. It's Henderson who's forced into another save. At the moment, Leeds United are the ones who've carved out the better opportunities on the edge of the box. Alex Vale to strike, puts it over. Well, something's got to change, and something's got to change fast here, because we are running into trouble. Really unable to break down this Leeds United door. Munoz now down the right-hand side. Can I try and see if I can play a ball down the channel? I can, but Solanke's miles offside. So it's Munoz once again on the right-hand side. Loses it in the centre of the park in a really dangerous position. And Leeds United hoping to take advantage now. Harrison manages to skip away from the challenger. Decore. Anderson comes across, though, with a really good challenge. Saves us at the death there as Munoz ran into some serious trouble. But Solanke now is going to try and see if he can release Tyreek Mitchell down the left-hand side. Into Kamada. Kamada twisting away from a challenge and gets a foul in the process. It's a short one here that Decore is going to look to take, and that is a horrendous free kick. Completely took it the wrong way. That was my mistake, to be fair, but we've won the ball back pretty neatly there, and Anderson will bring it forward now into Munoz. Munoz looking around for an option, finds Gray. Gray on as a sub, floats it in. I expect Dominic Solanke to really attack those balls in. He was nowhere to be seen. So it's Mateta, though, on as a sub, who wins the ball back in a really good position. Floats it back into the box. No one there once again. Gray knocks it down into Decore. Decore is going to look down the channel into Munoz, across on the right-hand side. Looks for Mateta once again, but the big man can't get on the end of it. Pacho, though, wins it back. Every single man inside the Leeds United half now as Gray floats this one over to Munoz. First time ball into the box. Lovely ball. He's offside. And with Diachi Kamada really not at the races today, this is a final chance for Fabio Vieira to say goodbye to the Crystal Palace faithful with an impressive substitute performance. To Leeds United now. Into my box with Harrison. Into Aronson. And Aronson just fires it past Henderson to give Leeds United a 2-0 lead. Well, I feel like this is the same story as the back end of the first half. We totally have peppered Leeds United's goal here in this second half, but once again, towards the back in the last 5 minutes of the game, it's Aronson who stepped up for Leeds United, dinks it over Henderson. And now we find ourselves 2-0 down. And frustratingly for me, that was the last opportunity of the game. Aronson celebrates. The Crystal Palace players look at each other in disgust. They cannot quite believe what has happened here today. As all of our positive momentum's down the drain, we lose at home 2-0 to Leeds. Well, if you want to compete at the highest level, you cannot let games like that slip away from you. And it just goes to show how important it was as we slipped down to 6th place. Liverpool have usurped us into that final Europa League spot. Fabio Vieira couldn't put in a super sub performance on his last game in a Crystal Palace shirt. But for me, it really just goes to show how important bringing in another central attacking midfielder or another creative player is going to be, because when Kamada is not on it, the entire team isn't either. But with the January window now officially open and £79 million left in the budget to play with, it most certainly is time to get down to work. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I really do appreciate all of the suggestions that you have provided to me, and as you can see from this list, I have quite an array of different choices. For me though, there was one in particular who stood out head and shoulders above the rest. He's a 25-year-old who has been heavily recommended to me across this entire career mode by so many of you, and now is finally the time for him to embrace the Crystal Palace colours. He's a young man who's got experience playing at the highest level with Fenerbahce and is now showing what he can do at the European Championships, and finally it's now time for him to show what he can do in the Premier League, as Sebastian Szymanski is going to become Crystal Palace's new number 7 as he joins the Eagles for a huge fee of £43 million. Already he comes in 3 years the junior of Diachi Kamada and 1 point ahead of him in his overall rating. He offers us a completely new dimension to our attack. He's got lightning pace and he's got the technical attributes to boot as well. And with us facing off against Brentford in our very next game, he's going to get the opportunity to show what he can do, as he will make his Crystal Palace debut here in front of the travelling fans, along with him and Jefferson Lerma being the only 2 changes to my usual starting 11. So it's Tyrick Mitchell to get us started here into that man Jefferson Lerma, deputising for William Pacho with a little bit of fatigue, drops to the bench, and he plays a wonderful ball into Terry Moffey, and the young man now has the pace to get away from the Brentford defenders, charges into the box. That is a brilliant way to start this game off in the opening 10 minutes. Terry Moffey says thank you very much to Jefferson Lerma as we take the lead here at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Well, Lerma has very much become a utility man for me across this season, filling in central midfield and defence, and once again he's filled in with aplomb. Wonderful driving run into Terry Moffey, and of course the attacker will do the rest. 1-0. But 4 minutes later, Brentford have got a free kick in a really good position, and that is a wicked ball in, but of course the big man at the back, Anderson, with a thumping header, and Szymanski now will get his opportunity to play the ball forward, and it's a nice little pass into Terry Moffey, into Solanke into Tyrick Mitchell, Mitchell now back into Moffey, as Moffey managed to stay onside. Yes, he has. Moffey back in. Oh, he drills it against the bar. That was a wonderful opportunity. It's Szymanski who's chasing down the defence there. That's exactly what I want to see, that sort of high level pressure from my central attacking midfielder, but unfortunately he didn't manage to win the ball, and Norgard now tries to play a ball through, but Tyrick Mitchell reads it really well, and now the left back can bring this one away. Nice little ball into Terry Moffey, who's been so influential, so heavily involved so far in this game. Plays it out wide to the right hand side into Daniel Munoz. He's got acres of space to run into here, floated across the box, looking for Dominic Solanke. It's a good, just power punch away from the goalkeeper. Jefferson Lerma out to Tyrick Mitchell on the left hand side. The left back wriggles away from a challenge really nicely, floats another good ball in, looking for Dominic Solanke. Once again is headed away by the Brentford defenders. It's Munoz with a nice little throw into Adam Wharton, plays it back into the right back, who throws it back into the box. My word, every single time we throw it into the box, Brentford look at 6s and 7s at the back, but once again they just about managed to clear their lines. Anderson into Decore, gets it back over to Mark Gay. Mark Gay's going to look over to the right hand side into Daniel Munoz. This has been a really good start to the game here for Crystal Palace, absolutely battering the Brentford goal, and once again Munoz is going to float this one in, this time looking for Szymanski. Couldn't quite get on the end of it though. Jefferson Lerma into Tyrick Mitchell, Mitchell into Decore into that man Szymanski, turns lovely, really nicely done, tried to play it across, just tried one too many things there, and Buemo tries to go past Jefferson Lerma. Lerma. He's got the pace to get away from him. Really, really nicely done from the Brentford winger. Look at this pace. He's got acres of space to run into, but the cross didn't match that quality. Adam Wharton gives it away into Anguissa. Anguissa into Sanchez. Sanchez just rolls along the floor right on the stroke of half-time. That was a big chance. But although we battered Brentford for most of that half, and we do have a one-goal lead to show for it, right at the back end, they did just about start to carve out a couple of half chances and get themselves back into the game. We've got to make sure we keep our heads here at the beginning of the second half. There's Daniel Munoz into Szymanski, who's come deep to collect the ball, and that's a lovely ball out wide to Tyrick Mitchell on the left-hand side. Really nicely done. Mitchell, the left back, to throw it in, looking for the header. Decore. Good save though from Raya. Into Terry Moffey, who's come deep. Moffey round the corner into Szymanski once again, and Szymanski yet again looks down the left-hand side into Tyrick Mitchell. Mitchell, lovely little dance away from the defender, throws it into the box. It seems like every single ball is getting cleared by the Brentford defenders, and perhaps we need to try a different tact. Into Wind. Wind looks into Sanchez. Sanchez takes it on. Big save from Henderson. Brentford have got a corner here. They look like they're going to take it short. They do take it short. It's a nice ball into Mbuemo. Throws it into the box. It's Henderson once again, though, the big man at the back to head it clear. Only out as far as Terry Moffey, who just bundles the Brentford defender off the ball, but doesn't manage to win it back. But in the end, does get it back and gives it into Szymanski. Now Dominic Solanke can try and see if he can release Terry Moffey. He does over the top. Can he get there ahead of the defender? No, he can't. He's just running out a little bit of steam there. So Sanchez round the corner into Win. Nice little layoff into Norgard. Norgard plays it down the channel into Mbuemo. Really nicely done. And my two defenders get all in their wires there. They get all mixed up, and eventually we just about manage to hack it clear, courtesy of a really good save from Dean Henderson. There's Mateta on as a sub, plays it into another sub in Kyle Walker-Peters, who tries to lift it over the top into Dominic Solanke, who takes on the volley. What a save. Well, it looks like he was just inches offside, but my word, if that had found the back of the net, that would have been a delightful goal. Floated across to Kyle Walker-Peters on the right-hand side. He plays it infield to Dominic Solanke. Solanke into Mateta, on as a sub. Mateta smashes it into the back of the net, and he doubles our lead here at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Well, I told you at the beginning of the episode, he's turning into a real super sub, is Jean-Philippe Mateta, and once again, he strikes to perfection. Just way too much power on that one. Raya had absolutely no chance. He celebrates with Solanke. It's 2-0. Sanchez plays it out to Mbuemo. Just under 10 minutes plus stoppage time remaining in the clock here. Brentford still have time to try and see if they can find a route back into this game. Anguissa on the edge of the box. Anguissa lines up a strike, and that is absolutely sublime. Well, I said they still had time, and my word, they are making the most of it from the outside of the box. Once again, Dean Henderson is beaten, and he is so unfortunate because once again, he's been absolutely fantastic between the sticks, but he can do nothing about that. A sweet strike, 2-1. Well, we have to hold firm here. We cannot let this slip. We cannot let things and games like this get away from us if we want to try and challenge at the top echelon of English football. Kyle Walker-Peters into Dominic Solanke. Solanke round the corner into Szymanski. Szymanski gives it back to Solanke once again. Solanke tries to shift it onto his left. Finds a ball into Mateta. Off the post. That could have been the goal to seal the game. But fortunately enough, it doesn't matter because we just about managed to get over the line here away from home. It was a quiet debut from this man, Sebastian Szymanski, but he will not care one bit because at full time here it finishes Brentford 1, Crystal Palace 2. It's good to see us back in the win column once again, as once again we've managed to leapfrog Liverpool back up into that 5th spot, and now we are just 1 point away from Tottenham in 4th. Yes, Sebastian Szymanski might have had a quiet game, but with that extra quality he does give us in the second half of the season, and allowing the likes of Diachi Kamada to take a little bit of a rest, recharge his batteries to come back fresh and ready for the next game. I am really positive that this squad is in a really good position and we could fight on potentially for Champions League football next season, but that is going to be that for the end of today's episode. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again next time.